we're going to add some challenge to our game. We're going to add some enemies that the player, our alien, has to avoid. Make sure your USB flash drive is connected and that the step-by-step project guide is open somewhere. In this phase, we're going to create some new enemy object types for bees and barnacles. We're going to set up their animations and assign them the sign behavior. We're going to create a family that we place them in. We're going to create some particles. I'm going to introduce you to the particles object type. And then we're going to use the event system to program an event that destroys the player, our alien, when it collides with an enemy. So let's get started. We're going to start by creating our barnacle. Let's go to layers. Let's make sure the background layer is locked and that the game layer is unlocked and active. Go to your project bar and add a new object type. Right click, insert new object. Our barnacle is going to be a sprite, so we're going to choose sprite and give it the name Barnacle. Insert. You should see the crosshair that references the game layer. Go ahead and click. So we're going to do something a little bit different this time. In the window that says animation frames, we're going to load our sprite from a sprite strip. Right click, import frames from sprite strip. And then on your flash drive, you want to find the Barnacle 2x1 graphic. The sprite strip allows us to very easily create animations. When the import sprite strip dialog appears, you have to specify the dimensions of the sprite strip that you imported. We need to tell it how many frames are in it. We had a 2x1. So we had 2 horizontal frames. And then you can click Replace Entire Existing Animation and press OK. OK. Now we have a 2-frame default animation for our barnacle just because we used the sprite strip. Let's take a look at the collision polygon. This defines the boundaries for a collision. It's sometimes called the hitbox. What we can do, right click and have it guess the polygon shape. When it does, it sees the body of the barnacle and adjusts it. Another neat thing we can do is right click, apply to whole animation. And so now, no matter which frame we're on, it has the exact same collision polygon. We also can use the same technique in setting the origin and image points. We want to set the origin to 3375, the bottom middle. This is going to allow us to use the snap to grid the way we want to. And similar to what we did with our collision polygon, we want to apply this image point to all the frames of the animation. So I can go over to the image points dialog, right click, and apply to whole animation. Now, no matter which frame I'm on, it should show me that my origin point is 3375. We have a default animation, which is great, but we want the animation to loop and be a little slower. It's going to look like the barnacle is chomping. We're going to give it 2 frames per second, slow it down, and we're going to loop. Press yes. Let's close this. And if our snap to grid is enabled, we should be able to move our barnacle into position, play the game, and as you can see, the animation is working and the barnacle looks like it's stable. We're going to put all of our enemies into a family, kind of like what we did with solids. We're going to right click, add family, and we are going to add the barnacle so far as our only enemy. Press OK. And we want to rename that to enemies with a capital E. And right now, only the barnacle is in it. I want you to take a minute, Control Drag Release, and move barnacles, placing them throughout your layout. Here's my layout. I have a combination of barnacles that have been placed with the snap to grid and ones that I've done manually. Looks like we've got enough barnacles. Now it's time to go create our bee. we're going to be following almost the exact same process to create the bee as we did the barnacle. Go back to your project bar, object types, right click, insert new object. The bee is also a sprite. Give it the name bee with a capital B. It should be on the game layer. Go ahead and click. We're going to use a sprite strip for this as well. So in your animation frames window, right click, import frames from sprite strip. Find the 2x1 bee. When the import sprite strip dialog appears, you should specify 2 since we have a 2-frame animation, and check replace entire existing animation. Press OK and OK. So here we are with our default bee animation that has 2 frames. Similarly, let's go to our set collision polygon option. Right click, guess polygon shape. That looks pretty good. And we're going to apply that to the whole animation. So no matter which frame we're on, that is the collision polygon. Same thing, origin point. We want 47 and 36 right at the center. That is just perfect. We want to make sure that's applied to everything, so we're going to right click on origin, apply to whole animation. So no matter what frame we're on, it should be 47, 36 for the origin point. The default animation, we're going to leave it 5 frames per second, and we definitely want to loop. This bee is going to look like it's flapping its wings. We should be able to close this out now and see the bee on our layout. Under families, find the enemies, right click edit. Now the bee is in our project, so we want to add it to the family and press OK. When we did the floating bridges, we added the sign behavior. Right now our bee just kind of sits there. We're going to add 2 sign behaviors to our bee. One's going to go side to side and one's going to go up and down. So find the bee, the project bar, and click on behaviors. We're going to add the sign behavior. Choose the sine wave under movements, and we're going to rename this one. This one's going to be bee side to side. We're also going to add another one for up down. Under movements, choose sine, rename. This one's going to be bee up down. This is going to allow us to keep straight which one is which. Probably noticed that in the properties bar, there are now more properties to set. There are properties for bee side to side and bee up down. So we need to set these. Our side to side sign needs to be horizontal. So let's keep that. The period, we're going to change to 8. Period random is going to be 15. Period offset random is going to be 5. I'm going to keep the magnitude of 50 and magnitude random is 15. You can refer to the Construct2 manual if you want to know more about these properties, and you can mess around with the values. Under bee up down, the movement we want is vertical. That's why we called it up down. I'm going to give it some variation. The period is going to be 8, period random 15, magnitude 25, magnitude random 5. So our bees are going to randomly move up, down, side to side. You can close this window. Let's play the game. As you can see, the bee slowly looks like he's flying in the air. And with the properties we just set, it's going to give it a kind of random behavior. I want you to take a moment and duplicate your bees and place them. Control drag release, Control C, Control V, whichever one works best for you. So I'm satisfied that I have enough pesky bees on my level. I think between the barnacles and the bees, I've got a lot of enemies. And now I need to prepare to create the event that has the player explode whenever it runs into one of the enemies. But I need to create some particles. Particles are a cool object type in Construct 2. They're really useful for explosions and smoke, things like that. So let's go back to our Construct 2 project. Make sure for layers that you're still using game and that it's active and unlocked. Under object types, I want you to right click, insert new object. We're working with the particles object type. And you can go ahead and keep the name that it suggests for you, name when inserted, particles, and click insert. We're going to put these particles off of the layout in the margin. The reason why we do this is because with particles, we want to spawn them using Construct 2's event system. So click, and let's find them. Let's go to our assets directory, and you'll see that there's an image in here called particle star. You can barely see it. What happens with the particles object type is that you're able to programmatically create large numbers of objects. And you'll see how this works here in a minute. So we have the object outside our layout. We have a new object type called particles. We need to set the properties of this so that you can see how this works. Under properties, I want you to change the rate to 150, the spray cone to 360 degrees. So when it creates these particles, they're going to go all around like a circle. Type, one shot. You can create particles that shoot just once and then that's it. And that's what we're doing here. Initial particle properties. Speed, we're going to reduce to 180. Size is going to be 48. Growth rate, minus 25. A lot of these properties you can actually use negative values. The X randomizer is going to be 5. Our Y randomizer is going to be 5. And then we're going to go down to the particle lifetime properties. Gravity, 75. Timeout, 1.5. Now that I have the particles, I need to create the event that destroys the player when it collides with an enemy. When the player is destroyed, it's going to spawn particles that simulates the player blowing up. I need to put this in the start and end level event sheet. The reason why I'm doing that is because an alien colliding with an enemy should always end a level, and I want to be able to use this event in other levels that I create. So let's click Add Event. Our condition is whenever the player collides with anything in the enemy's family. This is the beauty of using families in our coding. Press Done. What do I want to do when this trigger is satisfied, when the player collides with an enemy? First thing I want to do is destroy the alien. The alien is the visual depiction of the player. So I want to destroy that so it looks like the alien is gone. The next thing I need to do is I need to spawn my particles. So I need to spawn the particles based upon where the player is at that time. So choose player. And then spawn another object under miscellaneous. The object we want to spawn is the particles we just created. The layer is whatever layer the player is on. We can get that information right off of the player using one of its properties. Let's use layer name. That way we don't have to hard code anything. And at the origin point, image point 0 is fine. Press Done. Once we've spawned those, we need to destroy our player. Under miscellaneous, destroy. Then we're going to wait 3 seconds and we're going to start the layout all over again. So let's go to Add Action, System, wait 3 seconds, and lastly, we want to restart the layout. System, we want to pull in the margin and move this event block to the top of the end of level event group. Remember, we are inside the start and end level event sheet. I'm going to go back to my layout, then the Z order. Let's click somewhere in here. I want to make sure that my alien is at the top of the game layer. As I add object instances, it automatically puts them on top. So I kind of fight to keep the alien on top. Let's save our project, Control S, before we go too much further, and let's play it to see what happens when the alien collides with an enemy. As you can see, the player and the alien were destroyed, particles were spawned, and then we waited 3 seconds and restarted the layout.